That is so cool. Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here. I am here today with the brand new Nord Stage 4. Unlike its predecessors, the Nord Stage, the Stage 2 and the Stage 3, this has a completely different panel design for the better. Oh man, I would have had this video out a couple of weeks ago, but I'm constantly playing this because it is so cool. It is unlike any other keyboard I've played. Now, you play a Korg or a Roland or a Casio or a Kurzweil or whatever Yamaha, menu-driven, even the categories that you're searching for sounds from. But this is completely different. What you just heard me play wouldn't have been possible on some of those other ones. Everything is real time, and what Nord is best known for is everything is a knob or a button or a slider, and you don't have to go menu diving. So I went from basically playing a single instrument at a time, whether it's just piano for a solo gig or different parts as a keyboardist for other classic rock gigs or whatever. I went from that into something I'm just not used to doing. This being a performance on the fly instrument has basically inspired me to do stuff like I just did. And it wasn't even trying with that, so it is so much fun. Anyway, on with it. In 2005, Nord released the Nord Stage, now known as the Nord Stage 1. 6 years later, in 2011, they came out with the Nord Stage 2. 6 years after that, in 2017, they came out with the Nord Stage 3. 6 years after that, which is this year, 2023, Nord came out with the Nord Stage 4. So following their own pattern, every 6 years, they have a major upgrade to the Nord Stage series. If they keep this up, the next one will be in 2029 with the Nord Stage 5. But this one is so far ahead of everything else. Let's just take a look at the front panel. You don't have to crack open a manual or anything to see what everything is that they've done to this. Starting out with physical drawbars on all models. Now, there's 3 different models of these. They're all identical as far as the control panel, as far as the sounds, as far as the sound engine. The only difference is the key bed on each. So this being the Nord Stage 488, it's 88 keys. They have the Nord Stage 473, which is 73 keys, and both the 88 and the 73 are fully weighted, hammer action, all that kind of good stuff, but it's now triple sensor, which is so cool because you can do so much more piano-wise with a triple sensor and with much more accuracy than you could do with the Nord Stage 3 or 2 or whatever. So I'm really happy for that. I have the Nord Piano 5, and this is almost identical in key action to that. This uses the Fritar TP40M, M standing for medium, with AfterTouch, whereas the Piano 5 did the Fritar TP40H, or heavy action. So if you go to the keyboard touch over here, you set it for heavy, you pretty much have an identical thing to the Nord Piano 5. Now, the difference again, this is a little bit of a lighter action. You won't really notice it, but it also has AfterTouch, which the Nord Piano 5 did not. All right, and I said it comes in 3 configurations. I've covered the 88 and the 73. It also comes in a 73 key semi-weighted action, and it's a waterfall, but it's also a triple sensor action. How cool is that? And let me just let's turn off everything here except one of the pianos. Now, with triple sensor, let me back up with two sensors, you got two sensors, and when you press a key, basically it goes down past the first sensor to say I pressed the key, and then when it gets to the bottom sensor, it turns the note on. Calculates how much time it took to get from the first to the second. The faster it takes, that means the harder you've struck the key, the louder it's going to sound. The slower it takes, it's going to not be so loud. So when they added a third sensor, now a middle sensor, here's the deal. The note, you pass the first one, it knows that you're going to turn the note on. When you get to the last or bottom sensor, just as you did before, it knows how fast or how slow, so it knows how loud or soft to play the note. The difference is, with two sensors, the key has to come back up past the first sensor before you can play it again. With triple sensor, you just have to bring it up past that middle sensor before you can play it again. So it makes things like this easier. So if you're a pianist, you can appreciate that. And while we're on the subject of keyboards, Nord introduced two new pedals with this. They had a triple pedal before. Now they have a triple pedal 2, which goes into a proprietary jack. The original Nord triple pedal used the Fatar VFP3 custom built for Nord to do the triple pedal stuff. The new one is basically built on Kawai's customized GFP3, and that one has an optical sensor for the sustain pedal. Optical, it goes so much smoother. So in addition to be able to support pedal noise if you wanted, and as far as half damping or whatever, it's more accurate now. And unlike the previous triple pedal, which was built on the Fatar, this one, built on Kawai, now also has CC or continuous controller switches for the left and center. So you can do a lot more with that, whereas the previous triple pedal was just basically on-off switches for the left and center, and your half damper for the right. And most people like me, we just use the right pedal, which is basically the damper or sustain pedal. The other two, although some pianists may use that, I use it more for what this keyboard can offer me. I can use one of those pedals for organ swell, or I can use it to control this morph wheel, or I can use it to control a filter, or whatever. And there's other pedal inputs, so I don't have any shortage of that. This board thought of everything. Now, the biggest thing, besides the key action that I just described, all new panel layout. We've got physical drawbars now on all models. On the Nord Stage 3 and before, you only had physical drawbars on the compact version, not on the 73 or 76 or 88, just the compact version. Now you have it on all, not just physical drawbars. You see these LED towers here too. And if you don't like the LED towers, just want to use it the old-fashioned way, you go ahead and turn off the presets. Now you've got just physical drawbars the way a drawbar organ was meant to be. Okay, I kind of like the presets. It looks cool, tells you exactly where you're at when you switch from something to the organ, even though it may not match up, you know where you're at. And also, in a poorly lit venue, this also helps tell which of these drawbars you're using, because it's lit. Okay, in addition to that, now we have two different piano engines that I can use simultaneously. I have two different organ engines that I can use simultaneously. They can be the same piano or different on each one of these. Organ can be the same or different on each one of these two. And the synth now has three different controls. So you can have three different synthesizers or three different samples, if you're playing back samples, or you can have any combination of the above. Wait, there's more. Now, in addition to that, each one of these has full control of the effects section. So if I'm using a piano on this layer A, I can have its own set of effects, its own reverb, its own stomp box settings, its own everything, and then go to layer B, and I can have its set of effects separately from the first one. How cool is that? Now, I have the Nord Piano 5, which I thought was so cool. The only thing it couldn't do was have separate effects for each. Whichever effect you chose, that's what you got for both pianos. Not anymore. And the same thing applies to the synth section. You have your own basic EQ and all other effects for each one that you choose. How cool is that? Man, I have been waiting for something like this, and especially in a Nord, it really helps. Now, let me just clarify some terminology, because Nord uses the word layer kind of differently than I would. To me, a layer means two or more sounds. The way Nord is using it, a layer is a sound. So when you have three different synths or sample playback or whatever, they're saying you have three different layers. So getting that terminology out of the way, let's use what Nord uses, and we're going to refer to the word layer as a sound. So that means you have 7 layers here total. You've got the organ A and B, and you've got the piano A and B, and you've got 3 synth or sample playback, A, B, and C. So that gives you 7. Wait, it gets better. Remember how the Nord Stage 3 and before they had panels A and B? No longer. You don't need that, because now you have organ A and B, piano A and B, synth A, B, and C, and you can control each one. Each has its own volume controls here or gain controls. You don't have to switch from A to B. You don't have to remember if you're editing panel A or panel B. Wait, it gets even better, because now they have this button here called Layer Scene. And before I get into that, let me go back to, you're playing back, whatever you're playing back, you've got up to 2 organs, up to 2 pianos, up to 3 synths. You make all your settings here in the effects section. You change everything. You got it perfect. Nord calls that a program. To give you an analogy, Roland describes the same thing as a scene. So a scene and a program, scene being Roland-based and program being Nord-based, are the same thing. They describe the same identical thing. Now, getting to this layer scene 2, if I press that, I have 7 more controls here. 2 different organs, 2 pianos, 3 synths or sample playbacks. So I basically have 14 different things. You can switch from A to B, and they're all considered the same program or scene. When you go from A to B, maybe it's a fast way for you to cut out the organ and cut out the synth and narrow it down to just 1 piano. Or you can add more sounds or whatever. The possibilities for creativeness are just endless. It is so cool. I love it. So that's the layer scene, and it's just so cool. So let's give you an example here. I've got an organ, 2 piano sections going, and 3 synth. So I've got 6 sounds, and let's say I just really quickly want to cut just down to the piano sound. So we'll go into scene 2. We're going to turn this off. We're going to turn on the piano just 1 sound. Give it the effects you want. It has its own separate effects, which is so cool. All right, and I go back to my panel A, basically. switch over to just piano, I'll hit that. Anyway, that is just one use for it. There are so many different things that you can actually do with it. It's just so cool. And I've showed you basically what I can do with just this one setting here. This is called the NS4 palette. Now, you remember this knob from the other Nord series keyboards. Takes me to different programs. Anyway, you know this from the Nord Stage 3 and before, but in addition to basically different programs or scenes that they've put together that are really cool for you to mess around with, they also have another section here, a new thing called Preset Library. There's one for organ, piano, and synth. And this is really cool because with the button before, you're bringing in complete programs that control everything. With this one, you got something you like, but you want to change the organ or the piano or the synth, or maybe you're just starting out from scratch. So let's go to something that's, let's go to the piano section. This is a stage grand with the effects that they've set up for it. Okay, and maybe you have another one that you like better. This is a hi-fi grand. Like I said, they have some enhanced and new pianos to offer. This is a hi-fi grand, which I think is really cool. Listen to this. Okay, so you get the idea, and I can bring in just a single piano, because there's two of them, or I can go to one of the presets that has both that they've built. And the same thing with the synth section or whatever. So now you're not actually starting out from scratch, building your own sound perfectly the way you want. You use some of these presets, and chances are you're going to find something that's really cool and it will inspire you. And the word that I can focus on the most with this piano is inspire. Like I said, I've been lost in this for sometimes days, just sitting there playing with it because it's so inspiring to me to come up with new stuff. Okay. The other new thing that's cool, each of these, the two organs, the two pianos, the three synths, every button has on above, it says AUX Keyboard. AUX Keyboard A, B, C. Same thing with these. So you can assign a keyboard an external MIDI controller and hook it into that. So if you're playing stuff here, but you've got an organist, they play so well, just hook that up here, give them MIDI control of the organ, and let them wail away while you use this board for other stuff. You got a synth guy, same thing. So any of these can be assigned an external keyboard. So continuing on with just what's new. In the organ section, you also have a new, where you have this round robin here, you have a new B3 bass. So when you go to that, basically, which is basically just the first two or the lowest bass notes on the organ. The rest, they won't work. It's just those two. Of course, you can go to another mode and get that filled in. The other thing they did here, we got the B3. This is probably where most of you are going to spend your time with. They have basically the drive, the overdrive. It sounds cleaner to me than the previous version. So I really like that. They kind of cleaned it up. All right, couple other improvements. The famous shift exit button. So knobs, buttons, whatever. They have some instructions written underneath, or a label that's written underneath. To get to that, you hold down the shift and you press that button or move the knob, whatever. Okay? And with the effects over here and this, it's so much easier now that they've added a second shift exit button here. Because either one of these will do the same thing, but with this one here, I can use one hand, just basically hold shift with my thumb, and make an adjustment with the other. So that's really cool. No more of holding this and doing that. It's all basically so much closer proximity now. It makes it so much more of a pleasure to work with. All right. Now, instead of 5 live mode buttons that you had previous to this, you now have 8. And that comes in really handy because while it doesn't have a song mode anymore, you can either use the live buttons or you can go into Bank H, which is pretty much unused, and set up your programs there. It's pretty much the same thing you had before with song mode, but this way you get to name them and all that kind of stuff. And another improvement, you know how they had preset split points? They had 10 of those. Now they have 11, so it gives you a little bit more of a choice. And the split mode is just so cool. I'll get into details on more of all of this in future videos. I'm going to basically make videos that are going to tell you how to use this. Because from what I've seen, a lot of people go out and buy this, and after they figure out how to turn it on, they don't know what to do. And I know not everybody's that bad, but I'm going to be putting together videos that will tackle that. So you can become an expert player knowing just Roland or Yamaha or Korg or Kurzweil or Casio or whatever. I'll make it easy for you to go from that to this. Right now, I know you look at this and it looks like the cockpit of an airplane, but it's so simple and intuitive once you know what you're doing. I'm going to make sure that you know what you're doing in future videos, so stay tuned. Now the synth section, all right, now has 3 different layers or 3 different song or samples or whatever. You can choose 3 different things, and each one has their own set of effects parameters, different and unique from the other 2. Very cool. And when you do set up the effects, you can do it so that it applies to all 3, or just 2, or 1, or whatever combination. Very, very cool. The synth section comes or is based on the Nord Wave 2, which itself was very, very powerful. Now you've got that power here, and it is well worth it. Advanced arpeggiator and poly and gate with patterns. Yeah, you can control your own patterns now. The length, what kind of pattern, all that. We'll be getting into that in a future video. And you'll notice that the envelope thing is gone. That's because it's now on the display. So if I want the amp envelope, I've got it here. And these 3 knobs control that. The attack, the decay, and the release. Okay? Not just for amp, I've got filter envelopes now too. So that is really cool. And I also have an oscillator envelope. How cool is that? Same 3 buttons, attack, decay, and release for all of these. It's just so cool. Now, going into effects, they've got a couple of new effects, but they also have a variation button for a lot of this stuff. So let me just narrow it down to just piano. Using Hi-Fi Grand. All right, on the reverb, we now have a spring reverb. Okay, and we also have a variation button here. So hold down the synth, variation. So you can hear the variation there. And let's turn that off and go back to the original that I had. All of these settings here for reverb have a variation. Whatever you picked, hit variation and you get something similar but different. That is so cool. All right. They also have a booth, which is smaller than a room. Let's try the variation on that too. Whoa! Okay, that's cool. I didn't expect that. And they have a cathedral. You can imagine that. Maybe that's a little too much. Let's try the variation on that. I like it. But I think I'm going to stick with like Hall. I kind of like that. And they got delay effects, like flam and space and all that stuff. But one of the other new effects is a pump. So let me go ahead and turn the pump on. It's like a sidechain effect. Let's change that duration. And I can have that assigned also to, say, the synth section, and give it an even different pump effect. So the versatility here is just absolutely amazing. Now, as far as where it's getting its timing from, you can set it up to go with master clock, or you can actually control it with one of the pedals on a triple sensor pedal. So very, very cool. One of the other new effects is a spin effect. Kind of like a Leslie, but a little bit maybe not as dramatic. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. And again, there's variation buttons for all that. So whatever you can set, you can double that, because each time you have a setting, you can try something new by hitting the variation button. Really, really super cool. Now let me go back to just the piano section. And okay, that's the amount of reverb I want. Now, in the piano section, like I said, You've got two different pianos. You can use one or two, and they can be the same piano for a doubling effect, or you can choose something different. So basically, I've got two pianos that I set up in advance. A White Grand, which is a Steinway B, and a Grand Imperial, which is a Bosendorfer Imperial 290. So let's hear just the White Grand. All right, and let's hear just the Grand Imperial. Now, the Bosendorfer Grand Imperial is known for its deep bass, and the Steinway B has a really lovely upper sound. So, we turn them both on together, and check this out. That sound, the combination of both, to die for. Now, in addition to that, now you just heard a blend between those two. Let's try something else. Let's take the White Grand and just move that to the upper section. So we have nothing on the bottom, and we have the White Grand on the top. Now we're going to switch over to the Grand Imperial and assign that to the bottom. Okay. Turn them both on. I've got the Grand Imperial on the bottom, and I've got the White Grand on the top. Two different pianos acting as one. How cool is that? And if I like something else in, like, say, a middle end here, I can split the keyboard again and give it a different piano. So the amount of things you can do with this is just astonishing. And again, you're noticing the screen here. The one I keep coming back to is this NS4 palette, Nord Stage 4 palette, and I can view it different ways. These are the three different sections: the organ section, the hi-fi grand, or the middle, and the silk pad. But I want it broken down more. I have 2, 2, and 3. That's 7. I want to see all 7. So let's break it down even more, and there's all 7. Okay, and you're only seeing one up here in organ because I only got one activated. Let's activate another. Okay, B3 and Vox. Okay, also new in the piano section, we have Unison 1, 2, and 3, and Dynamic Compression 1, 2, and 3. Now, it used to be with Unison, you'd need two pianos, and then it would kind of detune one, giving you a sort of a chorusy effect. You can do it with just one now. And here's effect 1. Subtle. Let's try 2, which should be a little bit more noticeable. And then 3. Okay. Dynamic compression is another really cool thing. Comes in handy because you're playing you want basically the bottom notes and the top notes to be almost like equal volume with the middle, so it can cut through the piano section when you're playing with a band. the way things are, if you went through regular compression, it gives it too much. So this is just the right amount. So with dynamic compression 1, it evens out the volume, and if I go to 2, it'll be a little more pronounced. And the most pronounced with 3. Now look, I'm barely pressing on the key. Now I'm going to hit it hard. So barely any much more effort is not needed anymore. So let's go without compression at all. So you can see the difference. And you got some other cool stuff, because the way things are with all these different things, it's almost impossible to use encoders now, because which one is it going to show you? So basically you want to know what the value of something is in the effects section without twiddling the knob and changing it to find out. So they have this monitor button here. So if I hold that down and press the, or turn the dry wet, it shows me what my reverb amount is set to, 2.1. If I turn another knob, like the rate knob on Mod 1, it shows me 5.0. Even if I'm turning it, doesn't affect the value. It's just showing me what I've got. So that's pretty cool. Then there's this solo button. So you got all 3 parts going. Okay? You want to do piano real quick without having to turn off the organ and turn off the synth. Just solo it. You choose it up here. If I want to solo the synth section, or the organ, so that solo button comes in handy, because you can not only just solo a section, you can solo the individual track, if you will, or selection that you want. Or you can hit follow focus. So whatever has the focus, that's what's going to be soloed. Okay, I will turn solo mode off right now. Another thing is there's low and high over here. So when you have a synth going, so let's turn high on. See how it stands out in the mix without any effort. It stands out. And the same thing with the low. If I hit low, so that will also stand out. That helps you in a mix, accentuating or trying to get more heard in the mix when you're with a band. So that is another invaluable one right there. All right, and there's just so many different things. Morphing is easy now. Let me just go ahead and demonstrate that with, let's say, with the piano. Okay, I'm going to hold down wheel, and I'm going to go from here to here. All right, and let's say I've got a second piano. I'm going to hold down wheel and go from here to here. Okay. So now I've set the wheel see that? I'm changing the volume of each one. And it was so easy to set up. And that can control a bunch of things at the same time. Maybe I want to bring on the filter. Maybe I want to do something else. So that wheel comes in real handy. Now, let's turn this off. I'm playing here. I'm controlling volume with the wheel. I don't have to use the wheel. Let me just clear that. Let's hold down AT, which stands for AfterTouch, and do that. So now while I'm playing, AfterTouch means if I press harder once it's playing, which is really cool. All right. There is just so many things to this. I barely scratched the surface, but I wanted to get it out there with all the new stuff that this has. Not all the new, but at least give you an idea of the new stuff that it has and what you can do with it. And I warn you, once you sit down with this, it's habit forming. It's addictive. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you, and there's going to be more videos in the future to cover this stuff. Oh, you know what? Let me go back to the organ section, because I wanted to play some, maybe this should be for an organ video, but I was kind of impressed with some of the organ presets over here. So let me give you a couple of these that I thought was pretty cool, blast from the past kind of stuff. Anyway, just a couple of quick things. I really like that section. Anyway, I will see you in future videos. I hope you've enjoyed this and learned some stuff from it. So, Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.